Well, the name of a highly decorated and senior officer of the Nigeria Police is mentioned in one of the biggest international cyber heists in recent times. You expect eyebrows to be raised. Now, that it involves a notorious cyber criminal makes it even more interesting to the public. Raymond Abbas, popularly known as Hushpuppi, has pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit money laundering involving proceeds of frauds and other schemes committed by him as uncovered by the FBI, and he has called names. Abba Kyari, a deputy commissioner of police in Nigeria, is one of the country's most popular police officers, and one seen by many to be of impeccable character, and one of the names called by Hushpuppi. Now, with his indictment by the FBI and the issuing of a warrant of his arrest, the integrity of the police again comes to the spotlight. On VSA Today, we take a look at the ethical and legal perspectives to this important and topical issue. Welcome, I'm Sulai. Well, in June 2020, the Dubai police arrested Ramon Oloroba Abbas, known as Hushpuppi, in an operation named Fox Hunt 2. Hushpuppi, an Instagram personality known to expressly display his affluence, was arrested for being the ringleader in a transnational cybercrime heist. He's also known to provide a safe haven for money stolen through this process. He was extradited to the US, where he has since pled guilty to conspiracy to money laundering and fraud. And the big news that filtered through Nigeria in the past few days, a deputy commissioner of police, Abba Kyari, was indicted in the case. First, it came as, in hushed tones, just like a rumor, but pretty much later, it came to the fore that DCP Kyari has truly been alleged to have helped Hushpuppi silence one of his detractors, Chijioke, by arresting him, thereby acting as an enabler in the money laundering. Although evidence of Kyari's involvement has been presented by the FBI and a warrant of arrest has since been issued, he has since denied the allegations. Now suspended from the functions and powers of his office until final investigation, all eyes are on Nigeria and what becomes of this developing story. To give us insights into the ethical and legal perspectives to this topical issue, we have DIG Chijioke Nwobodo, a retired police officer. He's a lawyer and fellow of the National Defense College, and also Daniel Bwala, another lawyer and member of the Lincoln's Inn in London. Gentlemen, good to have you both joining me here on VSA. Quickly, initially the news filtered in for many who know Abba Kyari and his pedigree. It came as a big shock and a surprise. Let's start by asking how that news was, received by you.
Well, thank you for having me, and good evening to your viewers. The news came to me actually as a shock, just like many other personalities in the country, and especially because we are constantly playing a role in the way that we think we can in enhancing democratic values and shunning anti-corruption and criminal activity. So when you are the kind of person that supports the administration of the government, and then suddenly you hear something like that, naturally it will take you aback, and you will be shocked by that. But contrary to what the way people are receiving it, assimilating and consuming the information, I am beginning to ask questions, to be honest, that requires answer. Some of the answers will only come after the Police Service Commission are through with their investigation, and some of the questions will come consequently when the trial comes up in the United States of America. And the reason why I'm saying that is because Abba Kyari is not just an ordinary person. He is not just a police officer. He is an intelligence officer in the police. And as a matter of fact, his function in the police is in the special rapid response of the intelligence unit of the police. And by my discipline and understanding of the way intelligence work with law enforcement, and it is everywhere in the world, whether with the FBI, in the US, when the MI5 in the UK, or in Nigeria, you have to do with DSS, police, and the rest. When it comes to intelligence, there are questions we ask. Some of the questions will not make sense to the people that consume readily information from the media space. The questions I keep asking is, number one, what if the entire gamut of this operation is a sting operation by the police? And sting operation is a kind of operation by the intelligence office or intelligence officers where they do what we call play along. They commit the iniquity together with you. They commit the sin for the purposes of unraveling the criminal cartel. I asked the question, I'm not suggesting that is a conclusive proof. And the reason I asked the question is because Abba Kyari is not that, he shouldn't be that careless as a police officer. And if it is so, then what the FBI police did by not sharing, since we have mutual legal assistance with the United States, another question I ask is, the FBI, before indicting Abba Kyari, did they communicate to the relevant counterpart in Nigeria that, look, our investigation has linked Abba Kyari with some criminal cartel? Can you confirm to us whether there is a sting operation going on or that he's participating in criminal activities? So that the sharing of intelligence will help you appreciate that, okay, the person is not doing a spy work, but he's actually perpetrating crime. Then you'll be able to bust him. But like I said, police will not be able to come out right now, if it is so, to admit or deny, because then it will affect so many other sting operations that are ongoing. Have you wondered why you see him sometimes around celebrities, people who plan their monies and riches? So these are the questions I'm asking, not conclusive, but these are the questions I'm asking myself.
Well, Daniel, we'll come back to you so that we can actually stretch it, because some of these questions you've raised make sense. But again, if you put them on the scale, and going by what we saw, Abba Kyari also, his response in the social media, it doesn't look like a sting operation to many. And again, one would have thought that we're looking at intelligence officers versus another intelligence officer, and they should be able to recognize what a sting operation is. But quickly now, you've said that much, that you're asking questions, you're not saying that that is what it is. And these questions may come, illogical sometimes, but you need to actually dig deep. The Police Service Commission has already suspended Abba Kyari, and some again didn't see that coming. They thought, those who were Thomases thought that the police was going to delay, in doing that. Did that again also come to you as a surprise, knowing full well that in times past that hasn't actually been the signature of the police in Nigeria when one of their own as big as Abba Kyari has been indicted?
Police and the Police Service Commission would have to, or have had to act that fast, is because then it involves our foreign counterparts. In fact, everything about our intelligence and law enforcement, 60 to 70% of our training and information sharing is from the FBI. So whether you're looking at the police, you're looking at the DSS, or even if you're looking at the EFCC. And so in the spirit of esprit de corps, you cannot take that lightly. That's point number one. And then number two, you discover that from when the information broke out, the next thing we heard 24 hours later that the FBI were already on ground. So it is a serious matter. Any serious country, I do not think, given the circumstance, it's not like an information given to them. Already an order was issued, or that he should be arrested from the United States. And maybe in the course of conversation, we will be able to dissect what we call extraterritorial jurisdiction of the United States, circumstances in which they can go beyond the shores of their country to intervene or interact or intercept or interfere in the domestic laws of other countries when it relates to certain types of crime. So I'm not surprised that they acted fast, because they are now dealing with a very serious government.
In recent times, actually, the police has actually have gone on a different drive to improve the image of the force, which I'm quite sure you would agree has also been stepped up after the NSAS protest in the country. Do you think this, even though he's still considered an innocent man until proven otherwise, that this singular case must have actually taken the police down out of course in his quest to build in his image.
Yeah, certainly. If this is proven, then certainly it will shake the Nigerian police system to its very foundation, because Abba Kyari is 1 in a million in the police force. And I mean, nobody can deny that. It's just like when this allegation came up against Magu in the EFCC, and then some quasi group, quasi body indicted him. You know, people begin to lose confidence in the entire anti-corruption war, because you would like say, if somebody like that can be affected, then who am I, or something like that. So Abba Kyari is a special kind of police, you know, and it's a species of its own in the police system. So this will really shake the Nigerian police system from a background, from the foundation. But his suspension is the right thing to do, because the minute you're indicted or a heavy allegation comes up against you, the only natural thing the organization will do is to keep you away from interfering with investigation. So asking him to be suspended is not a conclusion that he has committed the offense, but he needs to stay away while the investigation is going on. And I'm sure that in the course of the investigation, they will investigate these activities not just within the confines of Nigerian territory. They will make some requests for certain information from the FBI, from the United States of America. So very well. And whichever way it goes, what is happening to Abba Kyari will bring what we call the reform of the Nigerian police system.
You know, you mentioned the extraterritorial jurisdiction, and one that many Africans, including President Paul Kagame, has spoken about has to do with the universal jurisdiction. And now a warrant of arrest has been issued by the FBI. Is the Nigerian government mandated by any international law to extradite DCP Kyari to the US?
No, there is no specific law that mandates the government, because there is no hard and fast rule about it. Usually when you are intending to have a fugitive, so to speak, or a suspect to be transmitted or transferred or transported from one country to another, the regular procedure that is recognized by international convention is this extradition process. But extradition only occurs where the two parties, the two countries, have signed a treaty to that effect. So if you have signed that treaty, then you can go by way of extradition, which is the judicial means of having the person moved from that country to the country that is making the extradition request. And the usual practice is that you make that request to the office of the Attorney General initiate the proceedings in the court, and then when that order is given, then you move it. Countries where extradition treaty is not signed, usually they apply either of these two other alternatives. One, which is what they call rendition, and then the second one, extraordinary rendition. Recently, I've heard how people are misinterpreting the movement of Kanu from Kenya to Nigeria to call it extraordinary rendition. No. Rendition is extradition outside of the judicial process by way of mutual assistance. So a government can, on the basis of understanding, surrender that person to you without having to go through the extradition process. So it is called a rendition. But when it is extraordinary rendition, it means that the government that is seeking to have that person applied what they call the use of force, the use of threat or intimidation on that country for the purposes of moving this fugitive or suspect. And the concept of extraordinary rendition came during the administration of Bill Clinton. And at that time, they needed to move certain terrorists, suspected terrorists, from one location to another for the purposes of torturing them and interrogating them. So in every case of extraordinary rendition, there must be element of torture and there must be element of very hard interrogation. And it did not apply in the case of Nnamdi Kanu. So in this case, the America does not need to apply extraordinary rendition because we already have a treaty and agreement. And the United Nations Convention is that once you have a treaty for extradition between two countries, any of the countries, say the dominant country that applies extraordinary rendition, then that has violated international convention. It is like a criminal offense on that country. So America will not think of extraordinary rendition. America will try to explore, one, the extradition process, or two, the rendition by way of mutual assistance.
Well, again, I think I'm hoping that DIG Chijioke Nwobodo should be able to join us so that Looks like we have a DIG, retired DIG Chijioke Nwobodo, who is also a lawyer and a fellow of the Defense College. Good to see you, and apologies that we lost you for a bit there. And we've been having this conversation with Daniel. Quickly here, we were going to ask if this suspension, which has been ratified by the Police Service Commission, is the right thing to do. Now, from the police perspective, how would these, did the police go through the right procedure in securing the suspension of DCP Abba Kyari?
Has
Well,
disciplinary matters in the Nigerian police. And having received this Abba Kyari, this by constitute a panel to get it, and also and forwarded it to the police as commission. One is the right and its powers under the Constitution, what was supposed to be done. So that's what they are supposed to do, and they have done so.
Well, I'm afraid I think I'm experiencing some glitch in your communication to the studios here, making it very difficult for me to comprehend what you're saying. I'm hoping we should be able to do another connection to you, retired DIG Nwobodo. Let me come back to Daniel here. Daniel, quite frankly, a whole lot, to look at in this matter, pitching two countries and a citizen of Nigeria, especially when it involves a case of heist or graft. One of the key things here has to do with the statement. And I'm hoping that you've been going through that. And in his statement, Kyari is saying in his statement that he arrested Chibuzo. That's one name that is right in that document because Hushpuppi alleged a threat to his life. So for the knowledge of Nigerians, tell us if this is an ethical move, for someone to have made such allegations and arrest, and if it turns out that that isn't the case, what should that officer have done? Many are saying that he should have also taken in the man who gave him false information about a fellow Nigerian.
Right. So if it is proven that he acted on the instruction, because this one can rightly be said on the instruction of Hushpuppi to arrest someone because Hushpuppi had a disagreement with him, then it comes to this issue of misconduct, like abuse of office. But this generally is the challenge with law enforcement in Nigeria. Now, in Nigeria, whoever runs to the police first appears to be the innocent one. Then the other person who is reported to the police appears to be the victim. If you take it away from the prism of Abba Kyari to the day-to-day activities of the police, you discover anybody who goes to police station and lodge complaint, whether he bribes or he doesn't bribe. The minute you lodge that complaint, the next thing they do is they will go and arrest the other person, lock him up before they even find out whether he's right or wrong. And then you take it off from there. And in most cases, there will be the violation of his human rights. So it is not peculiar if it happened. It is not peculiar to the police system, which is wrong. But if in the advanced countries, when you come to report, they take information from you, they ask you questions and they write. This question will form the basis. If at the end of the day, they make the arrest of the person and it turns out that it is a mischievous or malicious arrest that you influenced, then everything will turn against you. It is just like the system of justice in France. When you report or when you take somebody to court, if you fail in your case, then everything turns back to you. So I won't be surprised in this instance if the person was arrested at the instance of Hushpuppi. But again, it comes down to the question I keep asking. If it is a sting operation, there is nothing the agent cannot do to satisfy you for the purposes of building that trust and eliciting information that is necessary. And oftentimes, it is done when you are not the only subject that they want to find out. They want to discover a cartel. A crime is traceable to you, But the nature and the volume of the crime is suggestive that this is a crime that must have a criminal network. So for them to be able to succeed in that, somebody has to go to you, play along with you, even join your group, commit the same crime with you, and go as far as, that's why in the US, they go to as far as 2 years, 3 years, they take the truck, the women will go even sleep with those guys. They have to develop the confidence and eat deep so that once this information is gotten, they will be able to act on them. The only difference is that if the agent who is sent on that sting operation, eventually if the criminal cartel are arrested, then there will be official declaration that that agent was actually an agent sent for that purpose. Now, but police hasn't said anything, so it's difficult for us to know whether it's a botched sting operation that the FBI botched or whether it is a case of a true crime. But if you talk of whether he made statement in the media admitting this, he made statement through his phone admitting, all of that can be played perfectly by an agent if, mark my word, if it is a sting operation.
Okay, Daniel, I think quickly, it looks like DIG Nwobodo, retired, is back again, but this time, let's see if we can connect via phone. Again, apologies for that glitch. I'll let you finish up what you started off by saying, but again, also key in this, which is after an investigation, after investigation must have actually been carried out by the Nigerian government, what will be the result if an officer, in this case Kyari, is found innocent or guilty?
Well, like I started saying, the Police Service Commission is tied with the issue of discipline in the Nigerian police force. The final authority is there. Well, the IG, having received the report, has constituted a panel to investigate. Not only to investigate, he has also transmitted what he has received to the Police Service Commission. The Police Service Commission, having seen this, believes that it is something, there is enough evidence to suspend him, and acting on the powers with which they are tied in the Constitution, has done so by suspending him. I think they are right in this case.
So I had also asked about, the conduct of that investigation, if it does tilt, both ways. For instance, if he's found guilty or innocent, what happens to Kyari, going by the police books?
Ideally, he is supposed to remain on suspension throughout the process. Of course, you know that suspending him is part of one of the fundamental tenets of rule of law, that you do not participate in investigating yourself. It is believed that if he continues to stay, that he might influence the investigation. So they have rightly suspended him, and if it should remain suspended until the exclusion of the entire process, that is what ought to be. But believe the modern practice is that if you are found to have the police believe that there is a family particular against you, they will dismiss you and you talk to the policeman before, and then you take the trials. You go and take the trial, not as a police officer, but as a civilian.
Well, this actually is, certainly a tough moment for the Nigerian police. Being a fellow of the college, one of the key questions and concerns of Nigerians and Africans is about ethical training for police officers. As has been seen in the social media, many have started, photographs of Kyari are watched in the social media since after that indictment by the FBI of him being in the midst of some Nigerians of questionable, character. How is it when that training, is put before the police? let's start talking about ethics. Are there laws, regulations that guides the police officer of who and the kinds of people he's supposed to be associated with?
There are no rules binding police officers from associating with anybody. As a matter of fact, we are encouraged to know our environment, mix with the people, and in the process gather intelligence. That is what the police officer do. But even in so doing, you must be very careful as an officer. There are rules. You don't become a 419 person or advanced fraud individual just because you have to gather intelligence. So we are permitted, we are allowed, we are even encouraged to mix with members of the public, to associate, to know key personalities in our environment. But then, with this, an average police officer should also be in an ethical manner.
Okay, we'll come back to you, DIG Nwobodo. Let me quickly come to Daniel before we go on the break. You've heard DIG Nwobodo, and he's just been able to answer one of the critical questions many Nigerians have been asking, especially seeing photographs of Kyari. He said by their training, they are also encouraged to mix, with the people, and by so gather information, get intelligence, and act on that. So, Daniel, if Kyari is found innocent, as he claims, what do you think, if you were his legal counsel or giving us from the legal perspective, what should be the case of a man who's gone through, the crucible and he's come clean at the end of the day?
If the Nigerian police finish the investigation and find that Abba Kyari has committed an offense, so to speak, they will then make a determination whether to prosecute him under the laws of Nigeria in relation to the offense that it affects Nigeria part, because Hushpuppi is also a Nigerian, or they would extradite him then to the United States for him to then face crime that relates to wire fraud, which is within the jurisdiction of America, and because it affects the American citizens, then it doesn't matter who are the citizen, and it doesn't matter anywhere they can go and exercise the jurisdiction. Now, these are two sides. But if at the end of the day, whether from the Nigerian point of view, he is found to be guiltless, that is to say, after the investigation, the police, they are able to come out to say, yes, we have investigated this case. But fortunately enough, from what we have gathered from the Nigerian police system, it is like everything that he was involved in was part of an operation approved by the IG or approved by whoever. Then they would then communicate the same thing to FBI to say that everything that happened was part of an operation towards discovering the criminal cartel. In that case, he doesn't need to go to America, because if America insists he has to go, then he will take all of the decisions and findings and the reports from Nigeria up there for that trial. And at the end of the day, he will prove himself, or rather, when they are unable to prove his guilt, then he will go scot-free. But when he comes back to the system, because your question is, if at the end of the day, he's found not to be guilty, how will that affect his office? Usually, in other countries like in the US, they will find a way of promoting you, because they will have to send the message to the people that, look, you can stand trial, and when you are found not wanting, you can still continue in the system. Then the other thing, again, will depend on how the Nigerian police, for example, treat him throughout this ordeal. If the Nigerian police hang him out to dry, then if at the end of the day he's proven innocent, naturally he will want to walk away. So whichever way will depend on the conduct of the Nigerian police, conduct of the Nigerian government. So if he's convicted, then it's a different ballgame. If he's acquitted, it's a different ballgame.
Well, Daniel, we'll take a moment. DIG Nwobodo will take a moment. We'll come back. We'll try as much as possible to talk more about the ethics. And of course, Daniel will help us make some legal sense as it relates to universal jurisdiction in this case. Join us again. Welcome back. Here's a home run here on VSA, looking at that big issue, all eyes on Nigeria. Now, the Inspector General of Police in Nigeria has set up a four-man panel to look into the allegations against a Deputy Commissioner of Police, Abba Kyari. Mr. Kyari and others face charges of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, conspiracy to engage in money laundering, and aggravated identity theft in the U.S. District Court of Central District Court of California. Now, Hushpuppi is expected to face up to 20 years in jail, with those indicted expected to bag at least 10 years if found guilty. All eyes are on the Nigerian police and the Nigerian government, as what the coming days hold is of great interest to Nigerians, as the image of the country is in the spotlight. Now, we still have Daniel Bwala with us here, and Deputy, and of course, we still have Daniel. We still have retired DIG Nwobodo as we wait Daniel to come back in. Good to know you're still there, DIG Chijioke Nwobodo retired, and I'm trying for us to look at the training. Still very much about training. But quickly here, is there a justification for his indictment in comparison with the involvement of others in the fraud, if you were to look at it critically? Because a lot of Nigerians are trying to, understand what this is about. Now that Daniel is back, I think I'll let Daniel take this. And Daniel, it has to do with a justification against Mr. Kyari in this case. Is there a justification for his indictment in comparison with the involvement of others in this wire fraud?
Right. So the United States of America, there are circumstances under which they exercise jurisdiction. And one is protective principles. Then the other one is universal. You've earlier on asked the question about universal. The universal principle is applied where the offense for which the U.S. government, they are trying to prosecute relates to what is commonly referred to as heinous crime. So, for example, terrorism, slave trade, and privacy. Those ones qualify as heinous crimes within the context of jurisdiction. And so if that crime is committed, then it doesn't matter the citizen, it doesn't matter the country, the United States government can exercise jurisdiction over that person. But it does not apply here because first, what is being indicted on, I'm talking of the DSP, Abba Kyari, is conspiracy for wire fraud. That does not fall within the application of the universal principle, but it falls within the principle of protective principle, so to speak. Protective principle is the application of the U.S. law to protect the U.S. national security. So it doesn't matter the nature of the offense and the location of the offense. If that offense committed is one that can affect the national security of the United States or can affect the functions of the government of the United States, then the United States government can exercise jurisdiction over. Now, relate that to the facts of this case. The United States citizens have been defrauded through wire fraud. So it now qualifies as a national security issue. You remember recently, they were making arrests of individuals that were trying to benefit from this COVID relief package. And the COVID relief package is zeroed to the Secret Service. The Secret Service spearheaded. Secret Service in the United States, how they came into being was to control currency at the time. The same way DSS, sometimes they go into operation to regulate these activities of Forex. So the Secret Service are the ones dealing with that because it's a presidential order. Now it falls within the same. The wire fraud that is being committed is committed on the United States citizen. So if the criminal suspect, whether he's a US citizen or a foreign citizen living in the United States, or a foreign citizen living in a state other than the United States, or a foreign citizen living in his own home country, it doesn't matter. Once they can establish their investigation that such an offense will affect the functions of government or U.S. national interest, they can exercise jurisdiction. And that is what they actually did, and then issue that order for warrant of arrest for Abba Kyari to be arrested and be brought to the United States to face that. And they've applied that in different countries of the world. So it's not like they are trying it in Nigeria. On many occasions, they have requested for British nationals to be turned over to the U.S. government for the purpose of facing the same prosecution. You remember when Abu Mutalab's son was arrested for this terrorism, or rather bombing, attempted bombing, sometimes back. The U.S. Congress invited his father. They applied this universal in this case because it is a crime that qualifies as terrorism. So it exercised that jurisdiction, and then his father had to go. So these are the grounds on which the U.S. government will apply extraterritorial jurisdiction on some countries. But they are having it difficult exercising extraterritoriality with respect to the Twitter feud between Twitter and Nigeria because they do not qualify under that.
Well, I thank you for making that clear. I'll come back to you, Daniel, so that we'll also talk about, Kyari's reaction in the social media, which is still very much there in, on Facebook. If it amounts to someone, who should have reacted to all of that? Let me quickly come to DIG Nwobodo. If Kyari is sure of his innocence, should he be encouraged to turn himself into the FBI and face the court? Just as Daniel just reminded us of what happened in the Mutalab case, the father actually elected to go to the U.S. to face justice because he was sure that he wasn't a part of that heinous crime perpetrated by his son. Should Kyari be so sure of his innocence? Should he go to the U.S. to face justice?
Well, the father of Nwobodo is a private citizen, so he could turn himself in. But Abba Kyari, even though in suspension, continues to remain a police officer unless he is dismissed, and then he decides to turn himself in.
In that case, sorry to cut you there, DIG Nwobodo, because it's getting interesting. The question I had left for Daniel, I think I should even start it with you, and it has to do with, now we know that he's not a private citizen. What do you make of Kyari? Because he was the first to respond to that allegation, even before the police did. He went on Facebook, he wrote about 6 paragraphs, and in one of the paragraphs, he more or less, chided those who were jubilating over that indictment. Should he have gone ahead, knowing full well that he is a serving senior police officer, to give his own side of the story online in the social media?
That was very wrong of him. He shouldn't have done that.
Because he was acting and operating as an agent of the Nigerian police. So the purpose for which he was indicted was an official. It is like the case of vicarious liability. He is an agent of his principal. So it is his principal that ought to have issued the statement, either denying, admitting, or qualifying what has happened. So it was a big mistake on his part. Then regarding turning himself over to the U.S. government, you see the difference between the Mutalab and Kyari is that in the case of Abu Mutalab, it was not an order for his arrest. He was invited, and not by FBI, but by the U.S. Congress. So when he went, he even told them that, look, I have sent an email to the embassy a lot of times expressing concern about my son. You people didn't act. So he was applauded for that. But in the case of the Abba Kyari, they issued a warrant of arrest for him. So that means anywhere in the world he is seen, the U.S. government are mandating the international police to cooperate by arresting to bringing him. If he wants to turn himself over, he doesn't even have to enter plane and go to the U.S. He can go to the U.S. embassy and turn himself over because that is the territory of the United States. Or he can travel and go to the U.S. to turn himself. But it is not so fast. I will be disappointed if the government of Nigeria allow him to just go to the U.S. under whatever guise. There has to be a concluded investigation in Nigeria, and then there has to be a legal means of extradition, assuming he's found culpable, for which he needs to go and then defend himself in the United States of America. And then Nigerian government ought to also communicate with the U.S. that the approach that was given to this whole thing was not fair, since we have mutual legal assistance. There ought to be a communication from the FBI and the relevant intelligence agency in Nigeria about the culpability of a spy corps Because this is a police, it's not just a normal policeman on the road. It's a special, they call them special rapid response intelligence or whatever. They are operating for a specific purpose. And under that specific purpose for which they are operating, the government of the United States ought to have communicated with Nigeria that, look, from the investigation we're finding on so-so and so-so person that we've arrested, this is linking him to a cop in Nigeria. Can you respond to us? If Nigeria accept that, but then they will now say, turn him over to us to come and face the criminal whatever. The excuse that if they communicate Nigeria may not cooperate with them is false. You know, it's laughable. Because whether or not Nigeria respond positively, they will still go ahead and indict him if they want to. But at least under the spirit of esprit de corps, they ought to have done that. Do you know that without prejudice to the extradition treaty that is signed between Nigeria, there is no country of the world that would demand a U.S. citizen to just be taken to that country to face trial? All their citizens are tried in the United States. Under no circumstance will they be taken to another country to be tried. So that's the problem. You remember the son of a the one boy, I forgot his name, he's a basketballer, but then he was in college, they went to China, and then they shoplifted in China, and the president of the United States, Donald Trump, was in China. These guys were locked up. He had to speak to the president of China to release those boys. This is how they place premium on their citizens. But there are cases where, for example, if they have convicted their citizen in America, they can turn him over to the foreign jurisdiction to also try him. But he must be tried first in the United States. So under that mutual legal assistance, what is the content? Sharing of information, disclosure of the identity of persons of interest, and the location of the persons of interest. Have they applied the principles as outlined? It's very possible that they may have communicated to Nigerian police and Nigerian police did not respond. We can't tell that, but the duty is imposed on the U.S. government and the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation to communicate that. Otherwise, okay, the next day they were already in Nigeria. They were in the police headquarters to meet with the IG of police. They recognize constituted authority. So these are the facts surrounding his turning himself over to the U.S. government, or the facts surrounding how the police ought to have dealt with the situation rather than him issuing a statement. And then his activities on social media has not helped him as well.
Well, let me also bring that because I actually asked the retired DIG to also comment on that. Let's have your comment, your perspective on the same question, which Daniel has just answered to.
Like I said earlier, even though Abba Kyari is on suspension, he remains a Nigerian police officer. So he will not stand and walk into U.S. Embassy and surrender himself. There is a procedure for doing all this, dealing with police officers, issues concerning police officers' discipline. So he cannot go and hand himself over. He has to wait for the process to finish. And then if he is dismissed before he goes on trial, then he could as well hand himself over. Then he will be a private citizen, but for now he's not a private citizen. So that is the situation.
I actually also asked if, his response before that of the police, which came very early in the day on social media, was acceptable in the eye of the force.
I didn't even know that my colleague on the other side will discuss the issue. But then I said that it's not standard. It's not part of our standard operating procedure that you go and defend yourself, even when you are maligned and so many things are done to you as a police officer. You keep quiet and allow the official procedure to have its course. So it was very wrong for Abba Kyari ahead and begin to, social media. I mean, it's reduced the
Such a serious matter should not have been handled by him that way. It is not the official position of the police that you go defending yourself in the social media. or you even go to sue. Somebody might even have infringed your right in such a way and manner that you have the right to sue. But you are not even permitted to sue. You have to have police to handle the matter as a starting officer.
DIG Nwobodo, quickly here, do you think that the training, module of the police officers, talking about the training school, should be tweaked, should be rejigged to incorporate some of the dynamism of our present world, looking at what is happening in the social space, especially social media. It is not just only Abba Kyari who is very vocal, in the social media space. There are a lot of other police officers. If we bring in the issue of ethics here, do you think that this should also be incorporated into the police training?
Part of the police,
In our college and various training institutions, inculcate this. But then we always have room for improvement. I think there should be room for improvement. Then also, we have social media policy. So people should conform with the social media policy of the Nigerian police force. Some of these things that we see are actually signs of indiscipline and perhaps lack of maturity.
Well, let me quickly come to Daniel. And Daniel, now we're rounding off. Is this issue capable of, deepening or severing ties between Nigeria and the U.S., especially in the areas of corruption watch?
Nigerian government, the cooperation Nigerian government is giving is quite commendable, at least in the eyes of the United States. One, they indicted. Two, the FBI were welcome to Nigeria. Three, they had a meeting with the IG of police. Shortly after the meeting, he was suspended, and then investigation is ongoing. So I'm sure they will be excited that Nigerian government is responding to them positively. And it is not in the U.S. interest to just sever ties with countries that they know the citizens of the country have caught a kind of controversy around the world. So it is rather Nigeria that will feel bad that they went ahead and indict someone without sharing intelligence with them. But on the part of U.S., I think they will be happy. And I think globally, anytime crime is alleged, it should be proven, and proven beyond reasonable doubt. The fact that it is Abba Kyari does not mean the burden of proof has changed then to him proving his innocence. The guilt of that, the accused person or suspect must be proved by the person who alleges. And in this case, in America, there is already a criminal allegation against him. There is no criminal allegation as of yet in Nigeria. It is investigation into the propriety or otherwise of the indictment as contained in the document filed in the U.S. court. So at the end of the day, and from the way things are going, I don't think the relationship between Nigeria and the United States is going to be affected or severed, so to speak. There are so many times that EFCC will arrest certain individuals, and in EFCC office, FBI will be there joining the EFCC in the interrogation. So it's not in all cases they will ask somebody to be extradited to their country. There are cases under which they will come and participate in the investigation or participate in interrogation.
Quickly here, Daniel, in closing, now you have mentioned the EFCC. Do you think the EFCC, that's the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Nigeria, should be a part of this investigation team?
The EFCC is already investigating independently.
Oh, you're aware of that? Away from the police, team, there is another investigation by the economic and.
I don't have official awareness, but I have known the operations of EFCC long enough to know when they kickstart that kind of operation. And I've been a lawyer to EFCC a couple of times. So when a situation like that happens, they will start their investigation. They will not have to wait.
Okay, let me close with DIG Nwobodo. Quickly here, DIG Nwobodo, what should be your takeaway for Nigerians who are bothered, who are worried, who think that this has actually, muddied the waters of the police force?
Not all police officers in public activity or concern with criminals. I want to reassure Nigerians that so many of us served seriously and retired.
With lives now, and there are so many of
In service who are very, very honest. The whole saga does not prove that Abba Kyari himself is honest. The investigation will only have to wait for the investigation to prove. I also want us to know that the issue of security making Nigeria moving. And the justice have done a lot of human work.
we can only wait to see the
allegations proved to be true.
All right. Well, many thanks for being such nice company. Retired Deputy Inspector General of Police Chijioke Nwobodo and Daniel Bwala. Always a pleasure seeing you, Daniel. And also on this matter, of all the things you can become in the world, of all the people you can hobnob with, never be with someone of questionable character. That's an African saying somehow. Many thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.